My name is Simon Hill. I'm a Black American. I'm also a traveler and a political dissident. I speak up against the gun violence in my home country, which is the United States of America. On my channel, I cover the rampant level of gun violence that persists in American society. I cover mass shootings in the United States, and thank you for clicking this video. I'm also a fan of hip hop, and I cover mass shootings and gun violence in America because homicide, murder by the gun, is the #1 killer of black men between the ages of 1 to 45. This is a statistical fact. The conclusions we come to, time and time again, about gun violence in America are not working. Often we hear about murders, mass shootings, tragedies involving guns, and in America, the conclusion that is reached is often these are isolated incidents, these are choices of criminals, these are one-off events, when we all know in our heart of hearts this is not true. We continue to see the murder of our children, of our brothers, of our fathers, of our uncles, of our grandfathers, of our sons. How much longer does it have to continue? Takeoff of Atlanta rap trio Migos said to be shot dead at 28. The police believe the rapper was killed in a shooting at a bowling alley in Houston overnight, according to a person familiar with the investigation. This was written by the New York Times. The writers are Derek Bryson Taylor, Alex Marshall, Ben Cesario, J. David Goodman, and Joe Coscarelli, published on November 1st, 2022. The rapper known as Takeoff, 28, of the chart-topping Atlanta rap trio Migos, was shot and killed overnight at a Houston bowling alley, the police believe, according to a person familiar with the investigation. The Houston Police Department is waiting on the local medical examiner to make a formal confirmation and notify the man's family, the person said. A representative for Migos, who was not identified, told the Associated Press that Takeoff had died. Quavo, another member of Migos, was with Takeoff at the time of the shooting, the police said. Drew Findling, a lawyer for Takeoff and confidant to many rap stars, called the news of his death a devastating loss, particularly for Atlanta. When you're around Takeoff, there's a sense of peacefulness about his aura, Mr. Findling said. He listens to you, he looks at you, he's more focused on what you have to say than what he has to say. The world was starting to learn about Takeoff. It was his time to shine. Migos was one of the biggest rap acts of the last decade, was founded in the Atlanta suburb of Lawrenceville, Georgia in 2008. The trio first came to wide attention 5 years later when its debut singles, Bando, Versace, and Hannah Montana, featuring the group's signature style of rapid-fire stuttering raps and filled with sticky, repetitive choruses. A New York Times review of Migos' 2013 mixtape YRN called the group insistent, noisy, and chaotic, and perpetually in fifth gear. In late 2016 and early 2017, the group soared to international fame thanks to Bad and Bougie, a track featuring Lil Uzi Vert, but not Takeoff, who was absent from the song, that spent 3 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The track became one of the first mega hits of the streaming era and has been streamed more than 1.5 billion times in the United States alone. The group's subsequent album, Culture, debuted at #1 on the Billboard chart and earned Migos one of its 2 Grammy nominations. In the years since, Migos has released singles including Motorsport, I Get the Bag, Walk It, Talk It. Takeoff also put out a solo album, The Last Rocket, which debuted at #4 on the Billboard 200 in 2018. Last month, Takeoff and Quavo, without the third Migos member Offset, released an album only built for Infinity Links, which went to #7. Takeoff, whose real name is Kirsnick Kari Ball, was born on June 18th, 1994, and grew up in Lawrenceville and Athens, Georgia. He always wanted to rap, he told The Fader, a music magazine, in a 2013 interview, and found his bandmates close to home. Takeoff and Quavo, his uncle, were brought up by Quavo's mother, Edna, a hairstylist. The first of the group to fall hard for rap music, Takeoff soaked up music bought at the flea market, particularly Lil Wayne and his early group, the Hot Boys. As a duo initially called Polo Club, Takeoff and Quavo began performing music in their teens and released a mixtape when Takeoff was still middle school age. Offset began spending time at Edna's house and considered Takeoff and Quavo his cousins. Together, they started to map out a sound, repeated words, punchy ad libs that was catchy and distinctive. The trio came to the notice of Pierre Thomas, known as P, and Kevin Lee, Coach K of Quality Control, a then budding Atlanta label that became the city's primary incubator of young talent via the local hero Gucci Mane, who had heard the group's early track Bando. Takeoff first drew Thomas's attention with bouncy, melodic triplet raps that the executive said reminded him of the 90s group Bone Thugs and Harmony. The music was crazy, P later said, but what made me really want to go hard for them is that they packed all of their clothes and moved into the studio. Literally lived there, sleeping on reclining chairs and making music all day. Describing their approach to music in The Fader, Takeoff said the group would make about 7 songs a day, spending no more than 15 minutes on each track. Working on a song for any longer kills the vibe, Takeoff said. You gotta have fun with the song, make somebody laugh, he added. You gotta have character. In the summer of 2020, Takeoff was accused of rape in a lawsuit filed in Los Angeles by a woman who says she was assaulted at a house party in Encino, California. A lawyer representing the rapper called the claims patently and provably false and said the rapper was known for his quiet, reserved, and peaceful personality. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office declined to prosecute the case following year based on the lack of evidence, according to Pitchfork. And that's the end of the article. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to this young man. I'm 32 years old, and at 28 years old, Takeoff has unfortunately become another statistic to a society that does not value human life. I'm filming this video in Tanzania, Africa, in Dar es Salaam, in the capital. I'm sure in this country there are murders. I'm sure in this country where poverty rules, that there are people who are willing to kill, but they do not have the capacity or the ability to commit harm at the level and frequency that they do in the United States to other citizens of their nation, because in Tanzania, getting a gun is almost impossible legally. How many more young black men have to die? How many more mass shootings in schools have to happen? How many more Buffaloes need to happen? How many more families do we need to hear about getting torn apart due to gun violence? It's time to abolish the Second Amendment. There are many people who are hearing the rumors right now that Quavo is the one who instigated the argument that led to this shootout, and there are other people saying that Takeoff was actually caught in friendly fire, killed by somebody accidentally in his own group. Does any of that even really matter? Does any of that really even matter when there have been close to 700 mass shootings in 2022 alone, and it's likely that we will reach 1,000 before the end of the year? When hundreds of Americans are killed every year by preventable gun violence and hurt by preventable gun violence, does any of that really even matter? What caused it? Was it a dice game? Was it friendly fire? Was it an accident? Was it intentional? The common denominator in all of this is the gun. If you were to ask any other person from any other country in the world, would you want your country to have the United States of America's gun laws? They would all say no. It's time to make a change, America. It's time to make a change. Abolish the Second Amendment. Save American lives, because all lives matter. My name is Simon Hill, and thank you for watching.